Hello, my name is Kamisha Johnson, and this is Liberty University Business 343. I will be discussing Grievance Discussion Case 1 is an adoptive mother entitled to maternity leave. Next slide, please. A brief overview. Carol Fern has been employed by Bainbridge Borough for 18 years as a tax clerk. This position is part of the bargaining unit represented by Local 10 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. Carol Fern and her husband were notified that a 3-month-old baby girl was available for them to adopt. Next slide, please. April 27th, Ms. Fern requested 2 weeks of paid vacation from May 2nd to May 17th to finalize the adoption process. This request was granted. The day before she was to return from her paid vacation, Ms. Fern asked for 6 months of unpaid maternity leave. Bainbridge Borough Council rejected the request by a 4-3 vote. The council did offer Ms. Fern 2 successive 90-day reasonable purpose leaves, amounting up to 6 months of leave. On June 1st, Ms. Fern filed a grievance. Next slide. Carol Fern, the main points of this article is Carol Fern has requested 2 weeks of paid vacation for the adoption of her child, which was approved. The day before returning to work from the paid vacation, Carol asked for 6 months of unpaid maternity leave, which was denied. The council did offer Ms. Fern 2 successive 90-day reasonable purpose leaves, amounting to 6 months of leave. Ms. Fern filed a grievance with the union. Next slide. In this, the contract provisions, in Article X, Leaves of Absence, Section 4A, Unpaid Leaves, a reasonable purpose leave, the one that Ms. Fern was granted, is a leave of absence for a limited period without pay not to exceed 90 days, shall be granted for any reasonable purpose. Extension to be granted with approval of Borough Council. Reasonable purpose in each case shall be agreed upon by the union and the borough. Next slide. The contract provisions continued. Number 5 is maternity. Maternity leaves not to exceed 6 months shall be granted at the request of the employee. Maternity leave shall, upon the request of the employee, be extended or renewed for a period not to exceed 6 months. Next slide. My role as the attorney for AFS-CME Local 10, I will develop an argument to support Ms. Fern's contention that the council's rejection of unpaid maternity leave requests violated the collective bargaining agreement. Next slide. We will first go over some definitions. Collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is the process in which working people, through their unions, negotiate contracts with their employers to determine their terms of employment, including pay, benefits, hours, leave, job health and safety policies, ways to balance work and family, and more. Collective bargaining is a way to solve workplace problems. Next slide. The grievance procedure. The grievance procedure provides a fair, orderly, and generally efficient method for resolving rights, disputes, and enforcing union contracts. In this presentation, you will see the steps in the grievance procedure. There are 4 steps. Stage 1, complaint to the section head. If that is not resolved, Stage 2, complaint to the department head. If that is not resolved, Stage 3, complaint to divisional head. And if it is not resolved, then is Stage 4, complaint to the union. Next slide. Maternity leave. What is maternity leave? Maternity leave is the period of time when a mother stops working because she is about to have or just had or adopted a baby. Next slide. Pregnancy Discrimination Act. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act forbids discrimination based on pregnancy when it comes to any aspect of employment, including hiring, firing, pay, job assignments, promotions, layoff, training, fringe benefits such as leave and health insurance, and any other term or condition of employment. Next slide. The Family Medical Leave Act. The Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993 states that a new parent, including foster and adoptive parents, may be eligible for 12 weeks of leave, unpaid or paid, if the employee has earned or accrued it, that may be used for care of the new child. Next slide. Your rights under the FMLA Act. You have these rights if you meet all of the following criteria: work for a private employer, which has at least 50 employees within a 75-mile radius, or work for a public employer, including federal, state, city, and local agencies and schools. And if you have worked for the employer for at least 12 months or 52 weeks, it does not have to be consecutive. Next slide. Was the collective bargaining agreement violated? Yes, it was. The contract states that maternity leaves not to exceed 6 months should be granted at the request of the employee. The Pregnancy Discrimination Act forbids discrimination based on pregnancy when it comes to any aspect of employment such as leave. Under the Family Medical Leave Act, a new parent, including foster and adoptive parents, may be eligible for 12 weeks of leave that may be used for care of the new child. FMLA also states that if any employee has worked for an employer for at least 12 months or 52 weeks, that employee is able to get FMLA leave. Next slide. My plan of action in successfully gaining the outcome I seek would be to understand the 5 W's of the initial incident: who, what, when, where, and why, gather the evidence, collect facts, construct my argument from the facts, prepare my questions for the employer and the employee, and anticipate evidentiary issues. Next slide. In conclusion, Bainbridge Borough violated the collective bargaining agreement because it goes against the collective bargaining agreement that it has with its union on maternity leave. It also violates the Pregnancy Discrimination Act and also the Family Medical Leave Act of 1993. In order for me to gain the outcome I seek, I would understand the 5 W's of the initial incident: who, what, when, where, why, gather evidence, collect facts, construct arguments from the facts, prepare questions for the employer and employee, and anticipate evidentiary issues. This concludes my summary on the grievance discussion: is an adoptive mother entitled to maternity leave? Thank you.